to another episode of E&FtV's Bridging the Gap. And today I'm joined by my friend and rising star of Kew Green, Marielle Mikson. Marielle, how are you?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Did you like that rising star of Kew Green bit?
I was a rising star in Interstate.
Oh,
I'm
so he
not
was
a
actually a
rising
real
star
rising
in
star.
Kew Green yet.
I just see you as a rising star overall.
Thank you.
No, it's really good to have you on the show because I know that since you started at Kew Green, you've been super busy. I've been following your LinkedIn posts. Like me, you just post everywhere that you go, don't you? Which is amazing because I think people like to see where you're going, what you're doing, and the shots of the hotels are amazing. So I feel like I follow your life through LinkedIn.
I'm great portfolio with Kew Green. I have very, very different hotels, so I think it's great to show different sides of the hotels and how different they are and all the locations and everything. I think it's just really interesting.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's a great brand. I've stayed in a couple of them myself. Um, Always really positive experiences. Not just saying that, but always really good. So I find Holiday Inn and Kew Green really family friendly, and I've got an 8-year old at home, and just the little touches that they do with children, I think are really good. Like for my
Yeah.
8-year old son, they gave him a VI. The IC, I think, very important child, and he could pick from the little
VIK,
bar
very
of
important
chocolate.
kid. Yeah, yeah. They do
That's
that
it,
quite a
yeah,
lot with
VIK.
kids. That's very true, yeah.
No, it's a real savvy thing to do because you make the kid happy, you make the parent happy, and now every time, like the lady came back from behind reception and put his little badge on and said, "Oh, you're the most important person in the hotel. You can pick anything from this little, chocolate stand."
Yeah.
Now, every time I go away with him, like if my wife goes away with her friends for a week or so, and we go and stay, and he says, "Oh, can we stay in a Holiday Inn, Daddy?" Well, it's just
So
like,
it works. It
that's
works really well, isn't
it
it?
works. It works for a spend from Holiday Inn of like what 50 pence or something like that. They've probably secured a lifelong raving fan. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's
As
amazing.
long as you keep the kids happy, the parents will follow. You will go where they want to go, isn't it?
I think this is a whole episode in itself, but
Exactly.
let's
That's
let's
very
let's
true.
retrace a little bit and go back to. I'm really interested to knowing you as I do. I'm really interested to learn um, where you came from and learn a little bit about your story, kind of from the early days through to current day. So please tell us a bit about it.
So my hospitality story actually started quite many years ago, and it was a complete accident that I ended up in hospitality. So I applied for a high school where every year for one kind of period, you learn something about hospitality. So you learned a little bit about housekeeping, a little bit about reception, and it was just to kind of build interest in young people and see if that's the path they want to go in their life. And I really fell for it. I really, really enjoyed it, all of it. And a few years later, um, I started to work in a hotel. So I did like a little bit training on how to work in reception, how to do this and that in like vocational training school. I think it's called like that. And I did a whole hotel service training course for 2 years. And I started to work in reception in one little town in Estonia. So not very big, tiny hotel, very family friendly, very in the center of nature. And then after that few years, I moved to the capital in Estonia, in Tallinn. And I was really afraid to try to get a job in hospitality, to try to go to get a job in reception, which was my dream at the time. And I worked in few places, didn't really like it, and then took all my courage together and was like, okay, now I'm gonna go and try. The thing why people from other towns in Estonia who move to Tallinn are afraid is the language barrier. So we have a lot of people who don't speak Estonian, who speak Russian, for example, and you have to be able to speak to them because they don't always speak Estonian. So that was my biggest fear, the language barrier. But
Okay.
I applied, I got the job, and I worked quite many years in reception. So I've made my way kind of up and worked reception, did a little bit of reservations, and got promoted to reservation and revenue manager in a single property in Tallinn. Very exciting. And there where it actually kind of kicked off for me. I realized what it is. It was really interesting, all the numbers, getting your strategy in place. It all seemed really, really interesting. And I got some more training because I went to my GM and I said, really interesting, but I have no experience. I don't know how to do this job. You need to train me. And she was a very lovely lady who said, okay, I'm going to send you this kind of training school. So you got like a week's worth of revenue training. Did that job a little bit. And then my last job in Estonia before I moved to UK was a cluster revenue manager for Tallinn Hotels, which is a quite big company in Scandinavia. But when I mention it in UK, nobody really knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of got to this revenue management level and then decided to move to UK.
So you grew, it sort of grew, your interest and your exposure to it grew through front desk and front office.
Yeah. I started in front desk, did quite many years in different hotels again. I did my first year and a half in a busy corporate leisure hotel in the capital. Then I wanted more experience in like full service hotel. So I went and did a year and a half in full service, wellness centers, spa, conference centers, big restaurants in the middle of nowhere, but very like a destination in Estonia. So I did a little bit of that. And then I was actually invited back to do reservations and revenue as a coordinator or like assistant back in a hotel where my journey started a few years ago. And then it just rolled from there. Our revenue manager left, and then I was promoted to reservation and revenue manager. It was very interesting.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the benefits of having your own show is you get to dictate the talking points, and I'm really interested in learning a little bit about Tallinn. So last year at Christmas, my wife got me for like a 10th wedding anniversary present, a trip to Prague. So it was somewhere we'd been before and I loved it. And we went over between Christmas and New Year for 3 days. Because I loved it so much, why don't we do the same this year? And I was looking at random European destinations and I saw an advert for Tallinn and it took me down a bit of a wormhole into researching it. And then your LinkedIn profile popped up earlier. You posted about going back home to Tallinn for a break. And I was like, wow, I've got to ask on the show. I've got to ask Marielle a little bit about it. So tell me a bit about Tallinn.
Tallinn is the capital of Estonia. Estonia is a very small country. It only has 1.3 million people in the whole country, you know, when UK is 7 million. So it's, in terms of Estonia, it's a busy city, but actually it's not really. It's quite quiet. It's very green. Tallinn is located close to the sea, so we're very close for a day trip to Helsinki or an overnight trip to Stockholm. And we have Wi-Fi everywhere. It's very, very nice. People say that if you drive in Estonia, you always drive into forest, through the forest, or out of forest. So it's everything is very, very green and very, very nice. Tallinn Old Town has amazing history. So if you decide to go, definitely take some of their guided tours around Old Town. It's really nice. Yeah. Restaurants, shops, you know, it gives you this kind of 18th century feeling. It's very, very cool.
Oh, lovely.
You don't appreciate it when you live there. You think it's just normal. But I think when I look back now, you see the little things that make it special. One really cool thing in Tallinn and in Tallinn Old Town is our Christmas market. It's actually rated one of the best in Europe. The highlight.
I googled that.
Yeah, it looks amazing. It's very cozy. You have amazing food and drinks there. All this stuff that people sell, like handmade, anything you can basically imagine. It's lovely. It's really, really nice.
You've sold it to me. I'm booking it. Christmas market sold it to me.
Yeah.
So emigrating to the UK from Estonia must have been massive, big decision. Sorry. How did you manage that mentally, emotionally, and even physically?
It was in the beginning, it was really interesting because I was very confident. I was like, I'm going to go, I'm going to get the job I want, I'm going to say how it's going to go. And let's roll back now 3 years. What did we have? Lockdown, pandemic. Bit crazy, isn't it? Let's move to another country. People didn't travel at the time. So I started to look jobs in UK 2020, in the beginning of 2020, when everything got a little bit like fragile, I would say. Like my hotels back in Tallinn, they were just reservations just cancelled. The hotel ran out empty, and we were like, what is going on? But I was still quite determined to find a job. And I used LinkedIn, I used different Indeed. I didn't know much about Indeed, but I still used it. I really tried to get the job I wanted. So I went, plus the revenue manager is the minimum I'm going to get. So it didn't go like that at all.
No.
So first, loads of companies have stopped any recruiting. Loads of companies, didn't fire people, but how you call it, made redundant, did it on furlough, all these things. Like nobody literally hired anyone. So I was like, okay, that's not going that well. And I decided to look a little like further, a little bit bigger picture. So I came down to, okay, I can be just a revenue manager as well. It looks very nose up and everything, but at the time I was very confident. So I started to look just revenue manager positions, and I found a position advertised by Interstate, and it's down in Cornwall. They were opening, I can't say brand new because the building is hundreds of years old, Bodmin Jail Hotel. And I applied.
Yes.
Yeah, amazing property. So I applied for a revenue manager position, went through loads of interviews, homeworks, all these kind of things. And then it was me and one other lovely lady on the last kind of round. But the other lady had 3-4 times more experience than I ever worked. So she kind of won it. And the GM really liked me, I guess, because he came back to me and said, listen, you didn't get that job, but what else would you like to do? Like, I want you to be in my team. So tell me, what else can you do? And again, I was like, oh, I can do anything. So I said, I don't know, reservations. That was the moment when I got a little bit like, okay, actually, if I want to move now, then I have to not step down. I need to step aside. I need to widen my view, my kind of where I'm going. So I said, okay, tell me what could I do in your hotel? And he was like, okay, you could, I'm going to create you a position. You can be front of house manager. I was like, okay, so what that kind of means, because except reception, I haven't really done operational stuff. I don't think I'm a person for operational stuff. I like to sit in the office and pull the strings and make things happen.
Yeah.
But I was so keen to move, and it seemed like the only option. So I said, okay, I will be your pre-opening front of house manager. Packed my bags, booked my flights, moved to UK. I was quite clever looking back now, because I moved before Brexit happened, and it was loads easier. You arrive, you get your papers sorted, and you're pretty much done. Let's not talk about how difficult it is to get bank account and all these bits, but you're in a country and you're kind of accepted, aren't you? At the moment now, after Brexit, to come from Europe or any other country, I've heard it's loads more difficult as a paperwork.
Yeah.
So I was quite lucky. And 2020 in October, I moved to Cornwall, little town called Bodmin. It's a very small town, and it was in the middle of lockdown, so nothing was open, nothing was working. We were kind of half working from home, making schedules, how we're going to go in, and not too many people at the time, and all this. And you're trying to open a hotel in that kind of environment. It's really hard, really hard. So I did a little bit recruiting, tried to get the team together. And at some point, I think it was 4 months in, I realized, no, I can't do this job. I don't enjoy it. It's not too much, but it's completely different thing what I want to do. So I went to the GM and I said, kind of thank you, but no thank you. And I said, listen, I don't enjoy the job as much as I thought I would, and I want to leave. He was obviously a little bit sad, tried to talk me kind of back to it a little bit, but understood as well.
Yeah.
And because previously when I was looking for a job, at some point I made a decision that if I can't find the perfect job, I need to find the perfect company. And Interstate at the time seemed kind of like the world to me. It was a massive company. It was both in UK and US. And I was like, I need to get into that. So when I quit my job in Bodmin, I had a look what else they have to offer because I wasn't tied to anywhere. I didn't need to live in Bodmin or Manchester or anywhere. I just needed a job, what I will enjoy, and I will build everything around that. So I found a job or a job ad in the beginning where Interstate was hiring brand new opening in Canterbury for Hampton by Hilton and was hiring a reservation manager. And I was like, oh, that's great because that's, a step closer to where I want to be. And when I had my interviews, I realized how much revenue support is involved in this job. So I was like, hands up, I really want this job. I will smash it. A few interviews later, I was again packing myself in Bodmin and moving across UK to live in Canterbury. And I did this job 18 months. Really, really enjoyed it. It was once in a lifetime experience, really, to open a brand new hotel. It's different. It's very different. The process is different. You need to get the team together, how everybody will work together. And you're building, like they're building the building in front of you. When I first was there wasn't a hotel, it was just walls, nothing else. And then you see how it gets to a stage where it's a building with nice bedrooms, restaurant, all that. Yeah, it was quite of a journey. But now the hotel is, if I'm not wrong, a few days over 2 years old. They're doing amazing.
I think it's so interesting how, and it'll resonate with students watching this and maybe people that have got into a job that they're not 100% happy with, and they still need to nurture this dream like you did of eventually being in the job that they actually ultimately want. So you obviously went through a period where you were doing the job now, but ultimately, you wanted to move into something kind of bigger and better sooner rather than later, I suppose. Was it difficult to kind of keep that dream alive while you were working in front office?
It was really difficult. Like mentally, you're thinking like, is that all I'm worth? Like I've been working so hard in my country and doing all this, university training courses, all this, and like now I need to kind of step back. It humbled me a lot. Like the whole experience made me realize that sometimes you need to step down or side or back to get where you want to go. But one thing is like try different jobs, like go and try the reception job, go and try the F&B or whatever you want to do. But if it's not for you, be brave and say no. Say that, thank you, but it's not exactly what I wanted to do. Is there any other opportunities for me? Because you can't be sad in a job you don't really enjoy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always think that you're at work too many hours in a week to not be 100% happy there. But of course, you kept at it, you kept applying for jobs, you had conversations, which I always say that to people, just if you have half an hour free, the first interviews are generally kind of like coffee chats. So it's as much about you finding out about different companies as it is about them finding out whether you're right for them. So you went away, you had some coffee chats as such, and you find yourself at Kew Green in your dream job for the minute.
Yeah, I was very lucky. My whole looking for a cluster revenue manager position process was, I think, around a year long. So from the first application to the first start day with Kew Green, it was more or less about a year. So I went through everything again. It was just at points it was devastating because you're good and you can do the job and you're willing to learn new things, but then you have this I always have an amazing first interview. They're like really excited, everything is really good. If you like the company, even better. and then comes down to like experience in UK, which I didn't have. I
Yeah.
had 4 months front of house, which wasn't really, nobody was interested in that. And then I had, let's say, a year and a little bit more as a reservation manager. And they were like, yeah, but you haven't done revenue in UK. And I was like, yeah, but I've done it back in Estonia. Yeah, well, that doesn't really count. And it's just a little bit like disappointing how something counts and some things don't. But then,
Yeah.
yeah, I had my first interview with Kew Green, went really well. And then I had my second like face-to-face interview with Rav and went really amazing. I left the interview with a feeling that I'm kind of in the right place.
Yeah.
And then obviously, luckily, next day she called me and said, yeah, welcome aboard.
So going back to the barriers that you face, so employers were looking at your CV and chatting to you and saying, yeah, she did it in Estonia. I don't know the market in Estonia. I
Mm.
can't trust that. All I see is UK reservations and front office. What action did you take to get around that barrier?
I think I explained more. I explained how big the company is, and I explained what the company does, where I worked back in Estonia. And I explained more like, and I talked about my achievements a little bit more. Because when you're saying like, oh, I was a cluster revenue manager for 3 years in this hotel, and they don't know the hotel or how big it was or what kind of full service focused, they don't know. But if you start, you really need to break it down, and
Yeah.
you need to break it down to like, I achieved, I don't know, I increased RGI over 3 years by that much, or I did this and that. You need to give examples, and then they kind of break down little by little, and they start to
Yeah.
understand your story.
And you also went away and did a revenue management course, didn't you?
I did, yeah, that was one thing. I think I was in the middle of my kind of looking for a cluster revenue manager position where I realized that the university I went back in Estonia was amazing for me.
Yeah.
I got all the knowledge about restaurant and tourism like management, and really good. But nobody knew that university. Again, they did, like this name on my CV was nothing to them. So I
Yeah.
needed something on my CV to tell my future boss that yeah, she's actually done it. She's done a little bit training on revenue management. So I did Ecomel advanced revenue management course. It's like 12 weeks, quite intense. You have lots of homework, but really, really good. And I want to believe, I don't know if that was one of the things what Rav liked about my CV, but I think it helped a little. It definitely
I
gave
think
me
so.
more knowledge and kind of new ideas what to do and what to try in revenue management. But I hope it also kind of helped my CV.
Yeah. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. And I love the way that you saw an obstacle and you also saw ways to navigate around it, which I think, again, will resonate with any students watching it. I remember you got in touch with me or you put something on LinkedIn asking for advice on which
Mm-hmm.
courses to take into the revenue management. For anyone from Hosper watching this, I did recommend, honestly, Hosper, but you went away and did eCornell. But fair play to you, you went away and did something, and obviously it helped your career
Yeah.
fantastically. So where next for Marielle? Bearing in mind your
Oh.
current employer may be watching this, but look years in advance, what do you see yourself as a director of revenue, or do you see yourself
Oh
as a
God.
all-round commercial leader?
Oh God, that is a good question. I'm still learning my job. I really enjoy my job at the moment. It's really active. Even though I work from home, as you can see, I'm all over the country all the time, and I really enjoy this bit. And I think
Yeah,
if you progress further, it becomes less maybe to go and see your teams. You just manage kind of your team of revenue management. Maybe I'm wrong. Don't at the moment, I don't know. I just want to learn about my job and get some projects, maybe bigger projects. I have six
yeah.
hotels at the moment, so it keeps me quite busy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I know you, Marielle, and I know you'll have one eye on future, Marielle, and you'll be looking and you'll be carving out some ideas. What I think you do, and I said this to Nikos from our call that was on the show a couple of months ago, that I think one thing you do well is you have a great presence on LinkedIn. So people know about you, people are aware of you, they follow your career. or maybe it's just me, but I always follow what you're doing on LinkedIn. You're always messaging me about networking things. We were talking about our Mappy the other day. We met down in London at some event last October, November time. And I think so you're great at building a personal brand. And I think that's also so important to the students. When I do guest lecturing, I always say, think about your personal brand, think about how you appear on LinkedIn, think about the things you're saying, think about attending events and get your profile known, because people will always go to who they know before reaching out further when they're looking to make appointments. So I think what you do is fantastic. We just have time for you to give a couple of top tips to students that may be looking for their first role in hospitality. So if you have anything to share that may help them, that would be fantastic.
I always think that, dress for the job you want, but I take it in the sense that make your LinkedIn profile look like the job you want. So make it attractive. If you're looking for a job, make it attractive in one way. If you're already working somewhere and want to attract customers, make it attractive in other ways. Don't share too much about yourself, but share about your journey, what you're doing, where you want to go. But my biggest tip is try different jobs. But if you don't like it, don't suffer. Just say no and try something else. Like, it took me quite many years to get where I wanted. So don't just settle for, it's okay job. Go for the dream.
I don't know if you saw a show a couple of weeks ago, but I had a guy on our show, Jake Richins, that's a careers expert, and he's all about careers testing. Yeah. So he's all about, let's look at the skills that you have and what you like to do, and just test different things and see whether anything sticks. And I said to him, look, when I was younger, I was kind of paralyzed by fear to make a change almost. But now conversely, I'm kind of different as I'm older. But for young people, definitely it's an optimal time to be trying different things and seeing what fits and kind of what sticks. So I think that's really, really sage advice that you've just given.
Definitely. Try different things, go travel a little bit, take the world in and then come back and do big things.
Fantastic. Marielle, do you mind people getting in touch with you on LinkedIn? Any students that are watching that may want a little bit of advice or may want to, share things with you? Do you mind people getting in touch with you?
Not a problem at all. Very welcome. Not for the next 7 days, I'm on annual leave, but after that, very welcome.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's why you've got a big smile on your face.
Just few hours to go.
You need to get that suitcase packed, so I better let you go. But
thank you. Don't worry, everything is ready.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, because what you've provided is fantastic insights, which will really help kind of students watching the show. And also, I appreciate it because you've given up your time and you don't have much time. So thank you so much and enjoy your time in Estonia.
Thank you. No worries at all. You're very welcome.
That's all we've got time for this week. Another fantastic show. Like and share, because it really helps us attract better guests, almost as good as Marielle. And we'll see you next time.